Hi, in this video I have CBI's Astute range on display here. I have the Astute isolator. Here is the part number. It goes by the code ASI, meaning Astute Isolator. This can be used for a stove or a geyser. Over here, this is called the Astute Smart Plug. There's the part number, also called ASP, standing for Astute Plug. Then over here, I have the Smart Controller, also called ASC or Astute Smart Controller. Right, this is what the Smart Controller looks like. There are two buttons on the front with this flap, and there it can clip into a DIN rail or a Samite rail distribution board. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to set these up. I will demonstrate how to install the software and configure these devices so that you can use them in your home or office. Right, so I'm going to start with the Astute Smart Plug. This is a plug outlet and it would need to be wired by an electrician into your wall. Right, so over here I have a double socket, and behind it is the wiring connection, so you would connect your neutral, live and earth. Now for the Astute range, it's actually the same thing. It's just that this is a smart controller, so it gives me the ability to control the load using my cell phone. So what I need to do is just wire this up quickly. Right, so on the back I just need to wire up the live, the earth and the neutral. Right, so I make sure the power is off before I wire anything. Right, the live, the earth, the neutral. Right, there it is now connected to a plug circuit. That means that this has now got power. So now what I need to do is I need to use my cell phone and install the app. Right, in the App Store, I do a search for CBI Home, and over here I see the interface, and I've already installed it, so I'll now go to the app. Now here's the interface of the app. Now, for a first-time user, you'll need to sign up. It'll ask you for your email address, your location, and you'll need to accept the privacy agreement. It will then send a verification code to the designated email which you have used in your registration. Now, I've already completed the registration procedure, so in my case, if I want to re-log in, I just need to put in my email address and my password. Right, there's some check boxes which you can agree to or disagree, and then you can go through to the app. Right, then you'll see this screen. Right, so now what I want to do is I say add device. Now it's asking me what type of device. Now notice that I'm going to be using the ASP. They call this the plug. Right, so I tap on that. Now I have already connected to a Wi-Fi network, but I want to bring your attention to this. Notice that it says 2.4 gigahertz because some Wi-Fi networks work on 5 gigahertz. Now, if you are trying to connect with a 5 gigahertz signal, it will not work. You might get this warning because my phone is currently connected to a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So I'm going to just say switch Wi-Fi. Now, if I cannot locate a 2.4 gigahertz SSID, I need to log into my router in order to set the Wi-Fi to be 2.4 gigahertz. Now, in order to do this, you will need the router's IP address, which I do have. You'll also need the password and the username. And then in this case, I go to the My Wi-Fi setup. Obviously, every router is different, but I'm just showing you the principles. Now, here on this router, it says prioritize 5G, and then also if I scroll down, it even says 5 gigahertz network. So that means that the router is providing both SSIDs. One is a 2.4 gigahertz option, and one is a 5 gigahertz option. So in order for you to successfully connect to your Astute devices, you will need to connect to the 2 gigahertz Wi-Fi. If I'm using the 5 gigahertz only, it will not work. So therefore, you'll need to log into the router or the owner of the business or wherever you are. They'll need to set it up in such a way that there is access via 2.4 gigahertz. Just make sure that when you do connect your phone, that you connect via the 2.4 gigahertz. Right, so I've converted my network to a 2.4 gigahertz network. I can now connect. Right, so now what it says is power on the device, power off after 10 seconds, then power on again. Right, so here's the device, there's my load. So it says power on, then power off. So I'm powering it on. There you can see the load is on, the floodlight is on. You wait 10 seconds and then you power it off. That confirms that the unit has power, meaning there's power available here. If this button was not pressed in, for example, and I tried to power on the device, you'll notice that it does not work. That is why I first need to make sure that that is on, and then I can power on the load, switch off the load, and now I can continue with the sequence. Now it says reset the device. Now this is the button that I need to press for 5 seconds. Now watch that LED there, it changes its state. It starts to flash quite quickly. There, it is in the pairing mode now. Notice there's blue and red. So it is now in the pairing mode. Now on the cell phone, I can say next, And then it says confirm that the indicator is blinking rapidly. It is blinking rapidly, so I can just say confirm and then I say next. And now what it's going to do is it's going to try and locate it on the network. This is a time-consuming process, so you just need to be patient here while it locates this on the network, which means that I need to be within range of the Wi-Fi router. This over here needs to be close enough to the Wi-Fi router to be able to link or to pair. So that means that if I'm trying to install this outlet in maybe a LARPer or an office that is far away from the Wi-Fi router, then it won't pair. Now notice it timed out. That is no longer in the pairing mode. I'm going to put it back in the pairing mode. I'm going to press this for 5 seconds. Right, it is now in the pairing mode again, and I'm going to say retry. Right, so I'm just making sure I'm on the right Wi-Fi network. It is the 2.5 gigahertz network. Right, so we're going a second time. I'm just going to move my cell phone a bit away from the outlet. Now it has stopped flashing quite quickly, and there it has paired. Now you can name your device. Mine was ASP, so I've just called it kitchen outlet. So there it is paired, it is in the list. And something that I bring to attention is just notice that when this was on top of the unit, it was probably blocking the Wi-Fi signal, and over here it is now working fine. So we can now see that there is a blue LED there and a red LED there, and I quickly want to show you this. On the last page of the manual, it has a table showing the different LED statuses. Now notice there is options for red being on or flashing and blue being on or flashing. Now in this case you might not be able to see on the camera, but there is a red LED and a blue LED on at the same time. So that means I'm here. So on and on. That means the output is off, which is the case. My floodlight is off. It is paired. The Wi-Fi is on, power to the outlet is on, but the load is off. But notice the Wi-Fi is on. If I was out of range, then you're not going to get the blue light on. So make sure that when you install it, that the blue light is on. Otherwise, it may mean that you're too far away from your Wi-Fi router. Right, now I'm going to turn on the load. Remember, it is plugged in there. So I'm just going to turn on the load. Notice there's my floodlight. And notice this has changed. It is now flashing red, but the blue LED is on all the time. What that's telling me is this: power to the outlet is on, it is paired, and the output is on. Now if I turn the output off, notice that the LED here changes state. It is now red LED and blue LED on. So familiarize yourself with this table and the LED so you know where you are in terms of the status of the unit. Now, of course, I can turn this on and off at the unit, but the purpose of this is that I can do a smart control. Right, so now I'm going to work on the phone side and show you what we can do. All right, so I'm going to say done. And now it's going to take me to this screen. I can switch the load on, or I can switch it off. The CBI icon here is a red eye dot, whereas when it's off, notice that it is now off. And there's the name, it says kitchen. Now, before I show you the other features, I just want to show you this. I'm going to go off this network. You see, I'm currently on the same network. Now I'm going to go off the network, which means I'm just using my cell phone signal. So this means I could be anywhere in the world. I could be in another country. As long as I've got internet connectivity, and the home or office or business where this is installed must have access to the Wi-Fi of that building. In this case, it does have Wi-Fi access. Look at the blue light there. And now I can switch it on. There might be a little bit more of a delay. Well, in this case, that was almost instantaneous, very quick. There, I'm turning it on, and now I'm turning it off. So that means I can control this through the internet, and that is the whole purpose of this product. Right, so I'm just going back onto the network. So that means that whether I'm on the Wi-Fi or I'm in a different location, I can control all these Astute devices. Now, let's have a look at the functions at the bottom here. The first one is timer. So I can add a timer. Now, let's say, for example, I want the floodlight to go on only at 3:05. Currently, while I'm making the video, it's 3:03. Now it's asking me on what days do I want it to go on. So there we can go. You can select whichever days you want. You can put a note here if you want. Maybe it's load shedding or whatever it is. And then you can also have a notification. That means that the app will notify you. Now it says kitchen counters. What do you want it to do? So you can have the device go on or off. So in this case, I'm going to say let the device go on. That means that this floodlight will go on at 3:05, which is shortly. So I'm just going to save this. And now we can wait for it to happen. Now I don't have to touch anything. It will happen automatically because there's the time, it's 3:04, and as soon as it goes 3:05, there'll be a slight delay because of just the signaling, and the floodlight will go on. Right, so there we saw there was just a short delay and then it went on. And notice it did give me the status here, and there is the notification, and it said scheduled task succeeded, load shedding of kitchen outlet 505. Right, so you've got the timer there. Now it's in the on state, so that meant I set a timer for it to only turn on. Yes, obviously I can override it and turn it off, but what happens if I wanted to turn it off with a timer? Well, then I can just add a turn off time. So I could just say this thing must turn off at 10 past, and now I just change this to off, and I say done. And then when do I want this to happen? Yes, I also want this to happen every day. So at 10 minutes past 3, this will go off. So I'm just going to turn this on. Imagine that it was still on from that timing sequence, and I can just show you the timer. It's going to turn off at 3:10, which is just in a few minutes. Right, so when it goes 3:10, it will turn off. Right, so there you can see how to set up a timing sequence by just adding schedules as you go. So that means you can set ones for different days. You can have an exhaustive list here if you want. Now at the bottom here, I have a countdown timer. Now this works in two ways, and it depends on whether the switch is currently on or off. Now, if you notice, my load is off. This floodlight is off. So if I say countdown, I can say maybe 1 minute. Now I just say sure. Now what that means is I've activated a delay timer. Notice at the bottom here in gray, which should be a bit brighter, but anyway, it says device will go on after 1 minute. So if I wait for 1 minute, this load, this floodlight that is connected to here will go on once the 1 minute has expired. Right, so I'm just going to wait 1 minute, but obviously I'm going to speed up the video. So it went on after that 1 minute. Notice the load is on. Now I'm going to turn it off. Now the reverse is also true. So say for example, I turn on the load. There, the floodlight is on, and now I go to countdown. Now what I can say is, I only want the load to go off maybe after 1 hour. So there I've set it to 1 hour. Now why this is very useful is, say for example, this is an oil heater. You only want the heater to be on for 1 hour while you go to bed, or maybe it's in a child's room, whatever the reason. Notice that it will stay on for 1 hour. Then after 1 hour, the plug outlet will automatically disconnect the load. Right, so 1 minute has passed. Notice it says the device will go off after 59 minutes. Now on this tab over here, it says electric, and this is great because it shows the voltage and current and the kilowatts that are being outputted at the plug outlet. So if I turn it on, for example, notice that the current will now be measured and it will show what the current is. In this case, it is 0.2 amps. The power is 42.6 watts. And there is the total kilowatt hours, which will increment after the time has expired, meaning that in order to measure the kilowatt hour, time has to pass because this is a measurement of power per hour. Now this load here, which is currently on, is a 50-watt floodlight, and there we can see it's 42.7 watts. So if I leave this on for an extended period of time, it will give me the kilowatt rating. And why this is useful is not only does it tell you how much power is being used, but you can also set rules about the voltage and current. For example, over here at the bottom, it says scene. I can create a scene. So I'm going to say create scene. And now it says I can choose a tap to run. That just means a shortcut. So here is a tap to run. It just says if something, then something. So if it's tapped, then what's going to happen? Run the device. Which device? Kitchen outlet. And then it's asking me which function. Must it run the countdown timer, the restart status, the increase electricity, or the kitchen counter? So I'm just going to say kitchen counter. Then you can choose on, off, or reverse switch. Reverse switch means whatever state it's in, do the opposite. So I'm going to say on and save. So if I just show you what that does now, it gives me a scene. There's a scene. So that means if I tap it, boom, on. If I tap it again, it stays on. Why? Because this scene was only to activate the device. Remember that if I show you the scene, it says if I tap it, then the outlet goes on. So if I show you again, there's the scene I've made. The load is currently off, tap on. Okay, so that's a relatively simple scene, but let's add a more involved scene. So for example, we've got here when device status changes. Now this one I really like. Now it first asks you to choose which device. Now you might have a timer, you might have your isolator for your boiler, So as you add your additional devices, they will be populated in this list. So in this case, I just want to choose the kitchen outlet, and now it's asking me what do I want to measure. So I'm going to say current power, and now it's saying to me less than, equal to, or bigger than. If I say bigger than, I'm going to say bigger than 250 watts. Right, so I just typed it in manually. I'm saying that if the power is bigger than 250 watts, it's going to do something. If you want it to do something when the power is less than 250 watts, then you'll choose that option. But in my case, I want to create a rule which says do something when the power exceeds 250 watts. Now it says if the condition is met, kitchen outlet, the current power, so the power output exceeds 250 watts, what must happen? I'm going to say run the device. Which device? Kitchen outlet. And what must it do? I'm going to say off. Right, so I'm saving it now. Automation created, start using it, yes. Right, so it's currently active. This scene is active. Now, let me quickly run through what I've done here. We have a load here. It's less than 50 watts. It's about 40 something watts. This is connected to the Wi-Fi. You can see it's all in the correct state. Now, my phone has a scene set up. Notice I can switch on the outlet. There's no problem, because if I go to kitchen outlet and I show you electric, the power is only 42.8 watts. Now I'm going to use a different output. Right, so here I've plugged in my load. My load consists of 5 of the old tungsten globes. They're averaging between 50 and 70 watts each. I've plugged it in here, it's currently off. The rule is still set, which means that if I try and ask for more than 250 watts from this outlet, it's supposed to cut off this load. Right, so somebody's gone and plugged in their nice loads here, and now they want to turn it on. Right, so they've turned on all these globes, which I know exceeds 250 watts, and the outlet actually cut it off, which means that you can control how much power is coming out or is let through this outlet. Let me switch it on again. I'm trying to force it on, and there we go. The smart controller has stopped it. Why? Because the power output was actually 308 watts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove one of these globes, and let's see what happens now. And there the power output is 244. So it's just below that cutoff. So in this case, it will allow this load, because the rule says only if it's above 250 will it cut off the load. But here it is 244. So here comes somebody trying to add additional load. They've added the additional load, but there we see the smart controller cut it off because of the scene that was set that said if it exceeds 250 watts, it must be cut off. Right, so the scene is still running. If I don't want it, I can just turn it off and that rule will be gone. And I'll just show you another scene you can create. You can also do something that is weather dependent. Therefore, you'll have to tell the app where your outlet is stationed. So if I say temperature, then it's going to ask you for your address. And the reason why it's going to ask that is because it needs to know it needs to get the weather conditions from that area. Then you can set your own rules about whether if the temperature exceeds a certain amount or reduces below a certain amount, the weather, if it's raining or not, whether it's sunny, cloudy, rainy, snowy. It gets this from the weather service. It's not going to measure it from the device. It gets it from the weather service, from the internet, and then it makes a decision based on what the weather service says. So if you want something to happen when it is rainy or when it is not rainy, say for example, you've got a solar setup and the solar allows you to run a pool pump, but now it's cloudy. And what is happening is your pool pump is now depleting your lithium batteries. Then you could set a rule that says if it's cloudy in your area, the pool pump, for example, must not work. And then, of course, you can also do a schedule. You can set up a schedule when things go on, when things go off, what days. So you can set a scene for each one of the devices that you have. Right, over here I have the Astute isolator. This could be used for a geyser or a stove. So if I open the unit and here is the wall mount box, you'll notice that there should be two sets of wires. So this set of wire here, this is from the circuit in the distribution board. There I connect the live and neutral from the circuit breaker coming from your distribution board, and here is my load. So in this case, there is my live and neutral. So this will only work once the supply is connected. So this is the supply side and this is the load side. Please check out my electrical tutorials. I have a detailed video showing exactly how to install an isolator. But for now, I'm going to continue with the setup. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and connect this to my app. So I'm just going to say plus, and then I'm going to say add device. Now it's this ASI, the Astute Isolator. Now once again, it's going to confirm that I'm on the 2.4 gigahertz channel, and I need to connect to the Wi-Fi of this network, and then I say next. Now it says there, please turn on the device and confirm that the indicator is blinking. Right, so I've powered on this device, but it only has a red LED here. It is not flashing. Even if I switch on, switch off, it's still not flashing. Switch off, switch on, still not flashing blue. So what I do is I press and hold this button for a few seconds until I see it start flashing. Right, it is now flashing blue. It is in the pairing mode. On this side, I can now confirm the indicator is rapidly blinking, and now I just pair the devices. Right, so that's successfully paired quite quickly. If yours doesn't pair, my advice is to switch this off for a bit and then restart the process. Right, so there is the unit. It has been paired, and even though the isolator is in the on position, notice the load is actually off until I manually turn it on with the switch, or I create a scene as I've already explained. I can override it by just switching it off there. It does update it on the app. If I switch it on there, then it is also on, but I can override it on this side with the app. So I can switch on and off either using this button here or here. And if I want to completely disconnect everything, including this unit's power, then I can totally disconnect the controller. Now I won't be able to do anything using the app. Now over here I have the smart controller. The wiring is the same as the CBI time switch. I have detailed videos showing how to wire this. The live and the neutral is fed here. This will be fed from a circuit breaker in your distribution board, and then your load is connected here. The live on this side, and then the neutral is at the same point over there, the neutral. So now I just need to open it up. There's a power switch and then a little button over there. Right, I have my same load connected. Here are my bulbs, and if I switch it on, there the load is connected, and then switching it off, the load is disconnected. So all it's doing is it's allowing current to flow from that red wire to this brown wire, this live over here. So there's the input and there's the output, which is controlled with this switch over there. Now all I need to do now is pair this to the app. So following the same procedure, add device, but now I'm just choosing this one, which is the smart controller. Now it says confirm it's blinking rapidly. Right, now in this unit there's the reboot button, and this is the power button. So if I turn it on, it is just flashing red. It is not flashing red and blue. So I'm just going to reset the device by pressing and holding this button for 5 seconds. Now it is flashing blue and I can pair it. Right, so it was added successfully and I can say done. Right, so there I have my load, and I can turn it on and turn it off and then create scenes like I did with the other units. Right, I've stepped you through the 3 units, and I've also explained how to create scenes. Good luck with your installation. Thanks for watching, and cheers.